What the hell? Let's do it.
That's the spirit. To quote the great Joseph Campbell, he said, "It is by going down into the abyss where we recover the treasures of life. Where you stumble, there lies your treasure." To the ironic twist of the unknown. Bottoms up.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers and welcome to the desert of the real and happy heresies. It is Block Friday and we are very excited. I hope you're writing your own gospel and living your own myth. I hope you're ready to find who you really are and what reality is not. Welcome, you spiritual entrepreneurs, you modern day Tom Sawyers. You're in mind not for rent any god or government. Welcome, you veterans of 1,000 psychic wars. My name is Miguel Connor, and I am your Pompatus of Gnosis. And I am riding here with my coconuts as is our guest and wingman, because we are going to encounter King Arthur like you never have. As always, it is a pleasure to have David Block with us once again. David, how are you doing?
Thank you, Miguel. It's great on my end, and it's a pleasure to be with you again and your audience, as always. Looking forward to this.
Yes.
I hope you will enjoy it. It's a special topic here today.
Indeed.
Hard one.
A hard one. Oh, okay. Well, good. I know we're going to go on quite a quest to find the Grail. And I'm sure we will quote Monty Python. I think in this age, having a watery tart giving us a sword to reveal what our government is makes much more sense than whatever's going on with politics today. So these things, I'm certainly all about the lady in the lake these days. And with us too, we've got brave Sir Robin, the Moondog Vance. Vance, how are you doing?
Oh, I'm fine. I'm searching through the forest for the knights who say, "Nee." Bring us the shrubbery.
Never gets old. Never gets old. So awesome, and good to see people already in the chat. You guys are amazing. You do so much wonders, and you have so many great insights. As always, the usual housekeeping. Please support Aeon Byte in any way you can. Like, subscribe, share with your family, share at your church, and support in any way you can. I can't do it without you. And yes, the Virtual Alexandria Academy is still 50% off until Monday. Many of you asked to extend it. Some of you are traveling in the holidays, so you couldn't, you missed it. So again, at 50% off, code Elvis, and it's been doing really well. And of course, the feedback has been incredible. So get that comprehensive Gnostic education from ancient times to today's modern Gnosticism, Philip K. Dick, UFOs, Carl Jung, and all that. So that's really all I got. Yes, of course. No, of course. The jokes have to come. Hello, Graham. It's just a flesh wound. Yeah, we've all used it in our lives. It's so quotable. And it's a classic movie that maybe people don't know was actually funded by, I think, Pink Floyd, George Harrison, and all these classic rockers, because Monty Python didn't have the money, and these rockers just put up the money, and one of the best things they ever did. So I think that's it on my end. Shall we just get started, David? Shall we go on this quest with our coconuts and find out the average speed of a European swallow? I can't help it. Sorry.
I will not crack that nut, but maybe some others.
Awesome. Well, here is the presentation.
Thank you. Let's get going. Yes, the Arthurian legend. And of course, it's a lot of different theories about this legend and ideas. And I cannot bring all of them up, and we have a time limit. So I will try to focus on the Grail and what it means, but I will give you some different perspective on who Arthur was and so on. But I will not go into that. I will give you some different ideas about it, but you can make up your own mind if he was a real person or not. I will bring up some different authors and tell you what they think about it. But that doesn't mean that even though we can speculate about theory, I think there is a real method behind the myth, the legend, and real esoteric teaching and methods. So it's a very important tale and a very powerful tale. There is, for a reason why we're talking about it, of course, here today. And I think we can learn plenty if we focus on the right thing and stop arguing if he existed or not, and try to understand what they tried to tell you instead. But of course, I understand that I want to know the answer myself, and of course, I have made up my mind. But it doesn't mean that I'm right. And if I'm wrong about the author, doesn't mean that I'm wrong about the method and the deep question for the Grail and what it means. Therefore, I don't want to focus too much on it. So please stay with me. And as always, we have a limited time, so I cannot talk about everything. But in this one, I've used a lot of different authors. I want to mention them. Lawrence Gardner, Ralph Ellis, Maurice Cotterell, Joseph P. Farrell, Jason Reza Uriani, Wayne Herschel. And the esoteric people I use here today is Mark Allen Smith, Kenneth Grant, Carl Stone, and the gentlemen and ladies on Become a Living God. So let's start with the first chapter. Or maybe I should present the chapters. I skipped it. In chapter 1, Edom and Legends of the Fall. Chapter 2, In Deep Waters. Chapter 3, Knights Templar. Satana Dead in Water. Arthur and Canis Major. The Green Man. Excalibur and Merlin. The Apocalyptic Animal. Oath of the Witch God Eternal. The Grail of Knowledge. The Grail of Memory. And the Grail and the Womb. So we'll go through 12 chapters in this presentation. So let's start with the first chapter, the Arthurian legend, Edom and Legend of the Fall. I've talked about Atlantis before, and it's good, of course, to watch my previous presentation about it, but I will make a short presentation of what I've said before, and it's the fact that we had an Atlantis period, and that period ended probably 12,500 years ago. And after the fall, humanity went through a period of loss of memory, loss of method, and it had a long period where we tried to start up civilization again, and humanity was at loss. And I think we should go back to the knowledge, the esoteric method and knowledge we had during Atlantis time. Doesn't mean that all of that was good, but we have to sort it out. What should we keep? What should we take away or neglect? But this is a huge thing, and I want to go back to that because I think the Arthur legend is about Atlantis and going back to that time before the fall. So, a strand of knowledge from the Atlantean death have resurfaced in the age of Piscis. Do you have what it takes to find it? Are you a metaphysical warrior? Have you forged your weapon for battle? This is the path of the warrior. Excalibur is waiting for you. This is either the end of or the beginning of your journey. Man will know Eden, but he will know hell first through the course of his evolution. Hecate. And this is not a journey for the faint of heart. This is a warrior's journey, of course. And that's the reason why you have a lot of warrior symbology in it, and it's warrior knights. It's a Mithraic path in that sense. It's a struggle, hardship. It's not a new age path. So, who is the kings of Edom? The kings of Edom are not, as some have theorized, the Hebrew kings of Israel, nor are they the rulers of the Cliphotic realm of the witch gods. Edom was the first Eden. It was the Atlantean realm. Its words and the Atlantean gods who rule them lie below the Cliphotic tree of knowledge. They are the forgotten ones. The first Eden has become a realm that is only entered by those who are chosen by the gods of the Trident to follow this path of eternity. To enter the realm of the kings of Edom is to know the Atlantean gods as teachers, testers, and guides to either eternal power or damnation. The soul who aspires to stand at the side of the witch gods for all time must enter the realm of the Atlantean depth to undertake the oath of the witch god eternal. Mark Allen Smith. So, chapter 2. In deep waters. The Pendragon or head dragon of the Iceland, Pendraco Insularis, was the king of kings and guardian of the Celtic Isles. The title was not dynastic. Pendragons were appointed from Celtic royal stock by a druid council of elders. Colchester was then called Camelot, or Romanicized Camelodunum, from the Celtic Camelot, meaning curved light. This fortified settlement became the later model for the similarly named and seemingly transient court of Camelot in Arthurian romance. And this curved light, I talked about it in previous presentation with the AI and Stanley Kubrick. And of course, this is very important for my theories and ideas. And I will come back to that later on. And this is the word from AI. We can use AI to our advantage, right? So this is how AI describe the word Camelot. 1. Camelot as a place. Mythical Camelot. In Arthurian legend, Camelot is a legendary castle and seat of King Arthur's court. It's a symbol of the ideal kingdom, chivalry, and a vibrant, prosperous society. 2. Camelot as a system. Camelot's wheel. In the context of music, Camelot refers to the Camelot wheel, a system that helps DJs navigate different musical keys and mix smoothly. It's based on the circle of fifths. And this circle of fifths is very interesting because then you have the pentagram and the number 5 there. And this is very important. And I will come back to it many times in this presentations. I hope you don't get bored with the pentagram and the number 5. Number 3, distorted light as a visual effect. Visual distortion, distorted light could refer to a visual effect where the light is warped or altered in some way. This could be due to physical phenomena like refraction, or it could be a stylized effect used in art or media. And 4, distorted light as a symbol, symbolic meaning. Distorted light can be used metaphorically to represent something that is not as perfect or as ideal as it appears. It can suggest a hidden darkness, a flawed reality, or a state of uncertainty. And of course, start to think about Matrix maybe, and other movies. And go to the Matrix, and I hope you like that movie. It's a very good movie. It just goes deeper and deeper for me. The Matrix. In the film The Matrix, Neo chooses the red pill, signifying his decision to awaken to the truth. True harsh reality of the world beyond the illusion of the Matrix. this act of taking the red pill symbolized a commitment to seeking truth and understanding, even if it leads to discomfort and the shattering of comfortable illusions. And that's a description of AI again.
Yeah.
So we have a man, Andrew Godowski, I think he's a director. He talking about Matrix in, the very exoteric view or analyze on the movie. But Godowski sees allusions to Christ, including Neo's virgin birth, his doubt in himself, the prophecy of his coming, along with many other Christian references. Amongst this possible allusion, it is suggested that the name of the character Trinity refers to Christianity's doctrine of the Trinity. Of course, this is just the exoteric understanding. Now it will take you a little bit deeper into the Matrix and that, and try to show you where the Grail comes in and all of that. But some version of the Matrix are more green tinted than others. There's a green color to it. And of course, it's a reference to Venus. Venus is either blue or green. So I know that Venus is a big thing in the movie Matrix. So in the Matrix, we have Neo, of course, and he's the main character. And he states that he is the one. What do we mean by that? Everyone goes to Neo-Platonist and talk about the god there who they call the one. But it's, of course, more than that. And in esoteric traditions, things means a lot of different things at the same time. So you have to put them together to see the full picture of things. And of course, that is exactly what I try to do here today, because a Grail can mean a lot of things. And I will show you a different take on it. But for me, it all leads to one thing, really. But in the long run, the number 55, we talked about that in AI and Stanley Kubrick. And I will show you where it comes from later on. But for now, we have pentagram and the number 5, because a pentagram has 5 sides to it, and it's attributed to Venus. So if you use some simple gematria here, of course you have 5 plus 5. Now we'll talk about why 5 later on, so please bear with me a little bit here. I'll come to that very soon. But 5 plus 5 equals 10, of course, and you break it down to 1, because 1 plus 0 is 1. Therefore, Neo is the 1. If you count the number from 1 to 10, you got the number 5. Therefore, Neo is the one who have pierced the veil, Maya, the illusion. And I promise you I will come back to that, so please bear with me a little bit. And of course, in the movie Matrix, you have this Grail moment where Neo takes the red pill. Of course, that's the classical one there. And he sees through the illusion, the Maya. And he's offered the Grail, and the Grail in this movie comes in the form of a pill. A red pill. But that's the Grail moment in the movie Matrix. At least for me. So, what are the reference here? Jesus, the twin star Venus. A shrine from the cathedral at Guadalajara, Mexico, showing the newborn baby Jesus beneath a twin star, together with Mary and Joseph. Silver spheres mounted on urns, either side of Jesus, represent the various manifestation of the planet Venus as the morning star and the evening star. Joseph and Mary hence introduce Jesus as the twin star Venus. Therefore, you have 2 Venus, or 5. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David, and the bright and morning star. That's from Revelation 22:16 from the Bible, the New Testament, of course. Therefore, we know that Jesus has something to do with Venus and the morning star as the twin star Venus, or 5-5. Let's go to the bronze Rinnegan crucifixion plaque found in Churchyard in County Roscommon, Ireland, now kept in Celtic collection of the National Museum of Ireland in Dublin. The scene shows the crucifixion of Christ with, on his right, Longinus, who pierced the side of Christ with his sword. Stephaton, to his left, carries a vintage-soaked sponge on a reed to the lips of the Christ. The two angels above represent twin star planet Venus, the morning star and the evening star. So you have two angels besides Christ's head in this Rinnegan crucifixion plaque. So you have above Jesus' head 5-5, or the twin star Venus. But something is above his head, and some people will say, well, that's the cross, of course. Well, but if you look closer, you also see circles, Celtic circles, and it's something within the cross, within the wooden cross. If you outline it, it looks like a grail. It can be a grail, can be a crown chakra, Sasarara, and it can be both of them. But you have something above Christ's head. Not only the cross, it is ornamented with something within the cross, the wooden board. So, highlight the difference between soul energy and godly energy. Soul energy is godly energy, solar energy, which is attached to the heart of man, whereas halo energy is pure godly energy, light. The spiral or whorls is a central feature in Celtic art, meaning that Celts were preoccupied with purification of the soul, the conversion of soul energy to halo energy, the conversion of 666 to 999, the super science of the sun and the higher order of spirituality. Now, what he's talking about here is that 666 is a reference to your body, and 999 to the soul energy. So therefore, you are here to transform your body into soul energy, to end reincarnation, or to go back to source and leave the matter and become spirit and one with God. Therefore, to go from 6 to 9 is to transform your body into soul spark or soul energy. And of course, in the crucifixion, you have Christ crucified on the cross, and you have he's crucified with three nails, and a nail is a vav, and therefore it is vav vav vav, or 666, and it goes to from 6 to 9, 6 to 9, 6 to 9, meaning he is transcending matter to go to his father, or to create the creator, the source, to end reincarnation. And you have this in the card, the chariot in the tarot deck. And the chariot card is number 7, and you have the Cancer, the astrology sign Cancer, and the Cancer sign is made up of a 6 and a 9, and of course it means a lot more than that, but at least you have the 6 and the 9 as a symbol for the crab. And the chariot, on the helmet, you see a crab, and he holds a disc in front of him. And a red circle within the blue. And the red is, of course, Mars, and the blue is, of course, Jupiter. And you see a warrior, a knight, sitting in a chariot. He is traveling towards the metaphysical from matter. And the chariot is, of course, a very powerful symbol, and I will come back to that as well. In Grail is designed for Arthur 7, the Grail, a crab is depicted on the helm of the central figure, symbolic of the deep ones. The deep ones is our ancient gods, like Cthulhu and Dagon and those gods. In the earliest known zodiac, the sign of the crab was preceded by that of the beetle. The beetle is emblematic of a type of evolution destined to supersede on Earth the present human life wave. The bearer of the Grail depicted on the R27 may therefore be identified with the bringer to Earth of the Sangreal, or Blood Royal. Kenneth Grant. So you have in tarot deck a lot of Grail symbology, and of course the Golden Dawn was a lot was into this Grail myth and Arthur myth in their teachings, and you can see the Grail mythology in the tarot deck if you know where to look. So we have 5-5 above Christ's head, and you have the Grail cup above his head, maybe. If you want it to be the cross only, it's up to you. But for me, it means that we have found the Grail here, because if you mirror 5-5 and put them together, it creates the Grail. So you have the two angels on either side of Christ's head, and you have, and it becomes the Grail above his head. But it can also mean the Sasarara, the crown chakra. So we have 7 chakras, but we also have 3 small chakras in the back of the head. So you want to ignite your 7 main chakras first, or have them turned on through practice and method. And after you have turned on the 7 main chakras, you will notice that you have 3 small ones behind your head. And you see Baphomet hold up his hand, and he holds up 3 fingers. And that symbolize many things, of course. Not only the 3 small chakras in the back of your head, but it also symbolizes Orion's belt, 3 stars pointing towards Sirius and Aldebaran. You can make that claim, and I will talk about it later on. But the 10 chakras, the 7 main one plus the 3 one in the back of your head, leads to an 11th chakra that is called Sunyata. And now you have the number 11, and 11 is the number for Darth, the hidden Cliffa, leads to the Cliffotic tree. In other words, now you have turned on your dragon eye that can pierce the veil through the Sunyata chakra, and the 3 small ones in the back of your head plus the 7 main ones. You have the 7 main ones, leads to the 3 small ones, leads to the 11th Sunyata, and now we have pierced the veil. Now you've seen through the illusion, and you realize that this reality is really made up of light, sound, and vibration. It's not solid, and you can learn how to pierce the veil like Neo did. And it is rough to really see through the illusion and understand what it means. It means for us. And of course, all the symbols leads to the Knights Templar, and Knights Templar is a big thing in the Grail mythology in Arthur. So we cannot talk about the Grail without the Knights Templar. And Knights of the Grail. And the next chapter is, of course, Knights Templar. Knights Templar. Significant within the Grail romance is the influence of the Knights Templars, the poor knight of Christ and the Temple of Solomon. As constituted in the early 12th century under the Cistercian patronage of Abbot St. Bernard de Clairvaux, although intermixed with Arthurian knightly characters such as Gawain, Percival, Lancelot, and Galahad from the different era, the Templars were said to be the guardian of the Grail heritage. Therefore, we know that Knights Templar is a big thing in this mythology. The Knights feature particularly in the high history of the Holy Grail, also called Parlevau's Franco-Belgian work dating from Parlevau's Franco-Belgian work dating from about 1200. It is specific about the importance of Grail lineage, asserting that the Grail is a repository of royal heritage, thereby reiterating the dynastic principle of Valerian Sangreal on the island of the Agelis. Parzival is met in Glass Hall by two masters. One acknowledges his familiarity with the Parzival's royal descent. Then, clapping their hands, the masters summon 33 other men who are clad in white garments, each bearing a red cross in the midst of his breast. In a similar Templar vein, we have seen that the Vulgate cycle, incorporating the Histoire del Graal, the Quest del Saint Graal, and the Livres de Lancelot, was written by monks of Saint Bernard's Cistercian order. The Grail romance of Parzival by the Bavarian knight Wolfram von Eschenbach, 1220, also includes Templar reference, and its story was said to have been obtained from the Templar attaché called Quête le Provençal from the outset of the genre with Chrétien de Troyes Le Conte del Graal, the story of the Grail. The Templar influence was evident. And I think it's clear for everyone that the Templar is a big thing in this. And we also have, of course, one more big thing in the Templar, Knights Templar, is the Baphomet. And I think everyone is talking about it. And according to some, it's pure evil, of course, and they don't understand what it symbolizes. But here you have Baphomet with his 3 fingers pointing to the moon. On his chest, he has the pentagram, upside down pentagram, and you have the fire above his head. And you also have an upright pentagram on his forehead. And I've talked a lot about Baphomet because I've talked about The Shining, and I'm sorry to say I will come back to The Shining a little bit today. I will not keep you there for long, but it's
inevitable. We always end up at the Overlook Hotel sooner or later.
I will always take you to this goddamn hotel. I'm sorry about that. Hopefully the last time around. Anyway, no. I already pointed out the fact that you have the pentagram, the fingers, the moon, the upright pentagram, and the fireball at Baphomet's head. And this leads to the Baphomet can be seen as a symbol of different gods. Of course, it's a mixture of different gods, but some of them I would suggest is Belial, Cernunnos, and you might start to think about the Green Man. And yes, the Green Man is Cernunnos. Therefore, we have a connection with Cernunnos and the Green Man and Belial. Is it the same god? I don't know, but they are very, very close if they are not the same god with different names, because that's very common that gods have many different names from different parts of the world. And sometimes hard to put it together. But we have Samael, the poison god, and Samael, the poison god, I've talked about before as well, and I will come to that soon. But in the left-hand path tradition, you have Samael and Lilith combined becomes Baphomet, or you can combine Lucifer and Lilith and have the Baphomet. So Baphomet itself is not a god, but it's part of different gods. In this case, it means that you need to have the masculine and the feminine with you and combine this into the hexagram. The elements within you, the fire, the earth, the air, fire, earth, air, the four elements put together. 2 of them are feminine, 2 of them are masculine. Have them in balance. Know when to use your willpower force. Know when to take a step backwards and meditate and go within. Know when to do what. And have a balance between them. And of course, it leads to the Qliphothic tree. And you have on the astral plane 3 Qliphas. You have Gamaliel, the moon, Samael, and Arab-Sarak. And Samael is Mercury, and Arab-Sarak is Venus. So you have the moon, Mercury, and Venus. And Lilith, of course, is number 10, the last Qlipha, where the journey starts, of course, in matter. On this crucified Christ, you also see a DNA spiral, or this famous entwined serpents going up to this Celtic spheres. And for me, it is the Kundalini serpent and the heart chakra, Anahata, and DNA. And we talked about the heart chakra, Anahata, and how important it is to have it with you on this journey. Otherwise, your journey will end. You need to activate the heart chakra and push it up further towards the root chakra, the Vishuddha, and the Aina, and the Sasarara. Or you will be stuck in matter. Not in matter, but you will at least be stuck in the astral plane, and you will not be able to go further, deeper into the metaphysical. So the crucifixion of Christ, talking about this swirling Celtic pattern, and talking about the Rinnegan crucifixion plaque still, and we're talking about the heart chakra energy of Christ corresponds with the sun magnetic fields. That means the soul mirror image marker indicate that the heart chakra energy represents the soul in man. The halo chakra differs from the crown chakra in that each spiral is rotated by 90 degrees to its neighbor, unlike the soul energy in the heart, which is a mirror image that cannot be obtained using rotation. The 4-part heart spiral was represented by the Hallstatt Celts as the reverse swastika. The 3-part halo energy spiral arrangement refers to the solar wind of the equatorial field sector neutralization. Those who increase their own soul voltage during their lifetime on Earth go to heaven. That's the symbology. And of course, for this, in this method, the aim is to end reincarnation, go back to source. That in the left-hand path, we have a different aim. But this corresponded, for example, the Lurianic Kabbalah tradition. the Lurianic Kabbalists try to end reincarnation and go back to source. But the Lurianic Kabbalists, they use another method. The Celts use their method. But the goal is the same, to end reincarnation and go back to source, energy, and become part of the creator. Therefore, to go from Lilith to Thagirion, and Thagirion is the sun, the heart chakra, and beyond. And I hate to say it, but if you fuck it up, you will end up in the gold room with Jack. So this path is not for all, and this people is completely the wrong kind of person to do this transformation. They are stuck. I consider this to be stuck because they have lost the soul, the spark, their heart. They are all into their mind, and because of that, they cannot reach the astral plane and go beyond. Therefore, they will try to use technology and other means to go there. You have the opportunity to leave, but for them, matter is the game plan. Is their game. The game is in matter. Because they don't have any choice. But they can always hope to use technology, to use us or some other way. Hope is this last thing that leaves us humans and even the esoteric elite. Bloodline. The founding of the Templars are also related to the various bloodline hypotheses such as the Rex Deus hypothesis of Wallace, Murphy, Simmons, and Hopkins. Indeed, as was seen in previous chapter, there's a repeated pattern of interlocking family relationship evident in the connection of the Sinclair, Zenos, and Venice. Dead Sea Scrolls. Many of the other sites listed in the Copper Scroll were excavated by John Allegro, the Dead Sea Scrolls scholar. In several of these, he found many artifacts relating to the 12th century Knights Templar, but nothing whatsoever from the era of destruction by the Romans. Tim Wallace Murphy and Martin Hopkins. They are talking about the Second Temple, of course, in Jerusalem. And they found artifacts from the Knights Templar. And this leads to Akhenaten. And this connection is not very clear, I think. Many people think that the Knights Templar went to Jerusalem to excavate under the temple only, but they were all over the place and searched for artifacts and treasures and knowledge. Esoteric knowledge, of course. And all roads leads to Egypt. Akhenaten. Feather presents his remarkable research in 2 books, The Copper Scroll Decoded, and more recently in The Mystery of the Copper Scroll of Qumran. Feather begins to construct a very complex hypothesis in which he connects the Copper Scroll and the Qumran community itself to Egypt. By such consideration, Feather comes to state his main thesis, that the treasure referred to in the Copper Scroll in Qumran, the Dead Sea Scrolls, is not the treasure of Jerusalem Temple, but rather of Akhenaten. Therefore, we find a link between the Dead Sea Qumran community and the Egyptian Pharaoh Akhenaten. Is to say that there is a connection between the Templars and the ultimate source of Hermeticism, Egypt. Clearly, the Templars found something during their covert excavations. And I think they found a lot of esoteric knowledge, a lot of treasures, and artifacts. And I think they got rich from it, and I think their worldview changed because of this esoteric knowledge collected or found by them. And if you think about it, where they went is a very interesting area. You have, of course, Jerusalem, but you have Persia, Egypt, Babylon, Edessa in Syria. You have all those places, and the Templar was all over this different places. And they search for something, and they search for knowledge. And a little bit of speculation from my part, but you have a very interesting connection with the Constantinople and the Knights Templar as well, because the Templars went to the place in the Fourth Crusade and annexed it and forced them to open up the the doors. And I think they were there for a reason, to find esoteric knowledge. And I think some of the knowledge that have entered Constantinople, that they found there, came from these regions: Egypt, Persia, Babylon, and I think also Alexander the Great is a very important connection here, because Alexander the Great conquered Babylon, but also India. He was in Egypt, and he established libraries, not in his lifetime, but I think the plan to establish these libraries was a plan already set forth with Alexander. And the idea here was to gather esoteric knowledge into these libraries, to try to piece together an esoteric method who have been divided up into these different countries. And when they burned the famous library in Alexandria, I think they took that knowledge, and I think it went to Constantinople in order to save it from the burning. The Christian burned down the library. And I think some of it ended up in Constantinople. And I think the Knights Templar knew that, and I think they were there to try to take the information, the knowledge back, and the artifacts, and a lot of maps, probably, maybe a map how to go to America. And I think they found their way to America through a map from Constantinople. They were there before Columbus, and this Columbus stuff is, of course, complete nonsense, as always. But the most important part for the Knights Templar, maybe not the most important part, but is the esoteric method they try to find through their conquests, through the excavation. And one of those methods was the Kundalini and the chakra method, and that comes from India and the tantric traditions. The left-hand path is from India, from the original Tantra. The original left-hand path is Kundalini chakra, is Tantra, is the Indian feminine left-hand path. But here in Scandinavia, we also see a lot of reference to this methods. We have, of course, Odin. And most people believe that Odin is the All-Father, he's the gods of the god, but I view Odin more like a Merlin character, meaning an esoteric master who tried to figure out how to leave the Matrix or to gain power in the Matrix. But to have power in the Matrix means that you have to leave and choose to come back. therefore he tried to pierce the veil as Neo in the movie Matrix and many other characters or real people. One of this myth with Odin is, of course, when he hang himself from the Yggdrasil tree. He hang himself upside down, pierce himself with the spear through the stomach, and he's hanging there like in a meditative state until he gained the wisdom or insight he searched for. But this myth is about much more, of course. Odin is depicted with only one eye because he sacrificed his other eye in exchange for wisdom. He gave his eye to Mimir, the keeper of the well of Mimir, in order to drink from it and gain knowledge. This act of sacrifice symbolized Odin's relentless pursuit of knowledge and his willingness to pay any price for it, even his own body. And to break this mythology down, you have the water from Mimir. Water means memory. The Hebrew letter mem is attached to water. The number value of mem is 40. And this well of Mimir is attached to the tree of Yggdrasil, meaning that the water Yggdrasil pumps up comes from the well of Mimir. Therefore, Yggdrasil pumps up a memory and store memory within its branches. And we know that trees can be very old and they pump up memory from Mother Earth. And the dragon line is attached to this, of course. And Odin want to have memory from past lives, collective memory lost by the human race, to see through the veil and to take back what we have lost, to become a warrior and to understand the secrets of the runes. And what is the secret of the runes? Well, there are many secrets behind the runes, but the most esoteric secret is how to connect yourself to the different words in Yggdrasil, like Niflheim or Svartalfheim, or those words, because they exist. They are not stories. You can connect to these words and go there yourself. They exist in the metaphysical. And the runes is one method how to do it. The most esoteric purpose behind the runes. Let's just say to pierce the veil, to pierce the illusion and go into different metaphysical realms to find knowledge and find power. Chapter 4, Satana dead in water. Come to Jason Reza's work a little bit. He's talking about the Lady of the Lake. And I agree with a lot of things he says. I see clear connection to Persia and with the Scandinavian esoteric traditions. And I'm sure that a lot of ideas come from there. This goddess figure, variously known as Anahita, Artemis, Satana, or as an arch-gorgon such as Medusa, was revered as the mother, lover, and initiatrix of Mithra himself, or of the Mithraic hero. The opening chapter of this study also discusses how this form of spirituality, in which terrifying sacrifice, ritual intoxication, and ordeal by fire, the sacred sword, the Holy Grail, and Lady of the Lake played key roles. These chivalric heroes heroes and superhuman progenitors of the Nordic Iranian race were said to have been trained by the mother and Innetrix in a secret realm beneath the waters of a lake or sea. Their rituals involved the planted sacred sword, and they drunkenly sang poetic saga song in long halls that would become the basis for the idea of Valhalla. Scythian invasion of the Median kingdom likely led to the settlement of this region by Scythian, whose totem was the wolf. The totem was the wolf, and the arch Gorgon Scythian worshipped was, according to me, Hecate. And Hecate is portrayed with two wolves, and she holds fire in her hands. Therefore, there is a connection between Ladle Lake and Hecate. And I think that what Ladle Lake is a combination of Hecate and Lilith. Lilith is said to lay underneath the Red Sea. Arthur and Ursa Major. So who is Arthur? We'll talk about different ideas here, and you can make up your own mind, and there are for me it's not that important, but there are clear connection between the character Jesus, and I have a complicated take on the character Jesus. I think, as always, or also very often, he's made up of different characters. There were different Jesus, and with different methods and different ideas and different teachings. So why were the Norman French so interested in King Arthur of Britain? The answer surely is that Arthur was not a British king. He was a pan-European king whose life and history had been brought back to Normandy following the First Crusade. And here, once again, you have a connection between the Knights Templar and the Crusades. And this is our Ralph Elvis ideas and theories. And according to him, Arthur never existed. Lawrence Gardner have another idea and have other theories. And according to him, to place Arthur in his correct context, it is necessary to understand that such apparent names as Pendragon, and Merlin were actually titles. They applied to more than one individual over the course of time. Arthur's father, King Aedan MacGabran of Scots, became Pendragon by virtue of the fact that he was Prince Buchan's grandson. In this line, Aedan's mother, Luan of Breckenrock, was descended from Joseph of Arimathea. There never was an Uther Pendragon. And this Joseph of Arimathea is, of course, a very character. Is a lot of different ideas, and Ralph Ellis have his theory about this person. It is often claimed that the first quoted reference to Arthur comes from the 9th century Welsh monk. Nennius was Historia Britonum cites Arthur at numerous identifiable battles. But Arthur was recorded long before Nennius in the 7th century, Life of Saint Columba. He is also mentioned in the Celtic poem Gododin, written in about 600, when King Aedan of Dalriada was installed by Saint Columba in 574. His eldest son and heir born in 559 was Arthur. And according to Lawrence, Arthur was not a king, but a warlord. And of course, that's quite important. In the life of Sakalomba, Abbot Adamnan of Iona, 607 to 704, related how the saint had prophesied that Arthur would die before he could succeed his father. Adamnan further confirmed that the prophecy was accurate, for Arthur was killed in battle a few years after Columbus' own death in 597. So if you believe that Arthur was a real person, then Arthur was probably killed shortly after 597, and therefore we have a time frame here. And this is the time after Roman soldiers had left England and left the English to fight for themselves and try to start up their own civilization and fight the Saxons and other people who threatened their society. Threatened the society and order, of course. Lawrence Gardner writes, the picture beginning to emerge is that Alain was perhaps the son of Jesus II, also called Gaius or Gesu, while Joshua was the son of Josephus, each of them being first cousins, whilst also grandsons of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalena. As we have seen, John of Glastonbury referred to the family descent of the Sanctum Grail, often abbreviated to Sangraal. The earliest ascribed account of the Sangraal comes from the year 717, when the British hermit called Valerian of Albion was reputed to have envisioned Jesus and the Grail. So here we can see a lot of reference between the Jesus and Arthur. And some say it's this, same mythology, same kind of character, and there are a lot of similarities, yes. And I will go into these similarities and what bind them together. But for me, it doesn't mean that Arthur didn't exist or that Jesus didn't exist. Because the stories they put together, the esoteric organizations, they put very complicated stories with people who have existed, but they attribute them with names and references and cross-references between people to try to give you a picture of a method you can follow. It's not the story, it's not the history that is in the front here. It is to try to tell you to become the metaphysical warrior and do what these people do. The name Arthur. It has been argued that the name Arthur is derived from bear. This corresponds with Celtic bear gods Arthos or Artio. The name Arthur is generally reckoned to derive from the Latin Artorius, but this is quite incorrect. In fact, the reverse is the case. The Arthurian name was purely Celtic, emerging from the Irish Arthur. Let's go back for a second to Kenneth Grant. Henry Lincoln's research revealed a connection between the clan Plantard and the occult order of Sion. The Armageddon's crest of the clan includes 2 bears. The name Sion equals 156, which is the number of Babylon, the scarlet woman who collects in her grail the blood of the saints. And he's referring to card number 11 here in Crowley's deck, the Thoth deck or the Tahuti deck, and the number is 11. And as I talked about the number 11 before, the number 11 is a very esoteric number. And the card is named Lust in Crowley's deck. And you have a lady top of a beast, and she holds up a grail or a cup, and it explodes with serpents and energy. And according to Kenneth Grant, that's the Grail of the blood of the saints. What does he mean by that? In this card, you see this beast, this lion is trampling over saints. What Grail is trying to tell you is that you should trample over the people who are considered to be saints by, like, the Christians. No, that is not what we should look up to. This is not a path of admiration or look up to other people, but this is a path you should take up on your own. And it is full of lust, and you have to be prepared to maybe use, for example, sexual magic to achieve what you want to achieve. And that's not very Christian, for example. You are not very saint-like if you use sexual magic as a method in order to pierce the veil. But that's one method, right? If you do it right. And of course, people want to have great sex magic. Now we can have a lot of sex and group sex. But that's not what it is at all. It's not eyes wide shut shit here. It's much more complicated and much more hard work into this than just having a good time. It was also because of the astrological symbolism of the great month of Piscis that the father of King Arthur gained his famous name and title, except that popular mythology and history has incongraciously misspelled his name, presumably because they were attempting to translate from the wrong language. Contrary to popular opinion, the father of King Arthur was not called Arthur Pendragon in Welsh manuscripts. Instead, he was called Arthur Pendragon, as can be seen in the image below. But for me, and this is Ralph Ellis saying this, but for me, it is both and, because one thing doesn't have to exclude the other. I think Pendragon was a title, but Arthur Pendragon was another thing. But you can combine these. They doesn't exclude each other. But Ralph Ellis point out to these scrolls where it says Pendragon, Arthur Pendragon. And I think he's onto something, and I will show you why. You bear with me a little bit. We come to the god Dagon and the old one, the deep ones, the great old ones. And of course, this Arthur is Ursa Major, but also the dragon, because before Ursa Major was the main constellation by the pole star circling around us, it was the dragon that was the constellation that circled around us. But it shifted to Ursa Major, or the bear constellation. So now the bear is turning around the pole star. While the peculiar division of Pendragon into Pendragon may not have made much sense to Welsh translators, it would mean much more to biblical scholars. The Ben may well have been derived from the Hebrew for son of, while the dragon most probably comes from Dagon, meaning fish. Thus, the original spelling of Uther Ben dragon would mean Uther, son of a fish, with the fish referring here to the great month of Piscis. On the Hamat zodiac, the constellation of Piscis is spelled as Dagim. This appeared to be a variant spelling for the Philistine god Dagon, who Diodorus Siculus described as having the head of a woman, but the body of a fish. Thus, Dagon was cognate with Atargatis Ataratahe, who was actually the patron goddess of Edessa. And we come back to this Edessa kingdom. And Edessa is in Syria, today's Syria, if I remember correctly. And the king, the Knights Templar, were in Edessa to excavate. And Edessa is a a big thing. And according to Ralph Ellis, one of the Jesus, or his Jesus, comes from Edessa, King Abgar. So for him, the Jesus character was a warrior king from Edessa. And the kings of Edessa wore the crown of thorns on their helmet. For me, however, I did a presentation on the Ambite. For me, we have a left-hand path Jesus as well. And maybe that Jesus was Ben Stada. So for me, in that presentation, I take you to Sirius and why the Jesus in the New Testament aimed for Sirius and for Dagon. I can't go into it in detail here because it would take too long time, but that's my conclusion, and I will show you in this presentation some of it. But we have the Fisher Kings, and the Fisher Kings comes from this Jesus line. The character Jesus, I think, is based on 3 or 4 different characters. And it takes a presentation just to go through that, of course. So I will not go into it here. But the Jesus character was born in the constellation Arius. But it turned to Pisces during his lifetime. Therefore, the Lamb of God, the Arius Jesus, became the Fisher Jesus in the age of Pisces. Therefore, he had to change or take his teaching to that direction. Doesn't mean change the method completely, but he has to account for it. And the earlier symbol for Christianity is an anchor with 2 fishes. The cross was not the original symbol for Christianity. And as I said, mem, water is mem. Mem is the Hebrew letter for water, and the value here is 40. And we're talking about different. We talk about Dagon, the great old one, the deep ones, but also Enki is attributed to the star Sirius. Enki is an Anunnaki god, therefore it is a little bit tricky. But you have also Poseidon in Greek mythology. And I think Enki, Poseidon, and Ptah is the same god. Dagon, I think, is the great old one who is attributed to Sirius before these gods. So we have a method, a tradition that aimed for the great old ones, or the deep ones, the ancient gods, the titans, who are considered to be the evil ones, of course, in Greek mythology. And all these gods, Dagon, Enki, Poseidon, is attributed to Sirius. And there is a spiritual family called Oannes, and they are considered to come from Sirius. You have, for example, the Dagon tribe from Africa. And the Dagon tribe from Africa worships Sirius. And some speculate that this tradition, this method, the Dogon tribe's method in Africa, comes from Akhenaten when they left and fled Manu from persecution. And if that is true, we have a clear connection here, because the Knights Templar seems to have searched for the treasure of Akhenaten, and according to me, also Akhenaten's method and teaching. Not only treasures, but knowledge of old. And this is very interesting. And I remember a show on The Dark Journalist with Carmen Boltier, I think her name is. They found the treasure of Akhenaten. And according to her, Akhenaten traced his lineage back to Atlantis. And they found this Atlantean treasure part of that treasure was 12,000 years old and seems to go back to Atlantis time, or during the fall, the period of the fall and before the fall of Atlantis. Jesus also have a crown of thorns. What does that mean? I will go into that soon. Our sun Helios is considered to have a twin star. Most suns have a twin star, and they are dancing around each other. And when they do, they create the Visca piscis, or the bladder of the fish. It is two circles interlocking with each other, and according to some, Sirius and the sun Helios is dancing around each other and form this pattern when it travels in space, through space. Another very important symbol in Arthur is, of course, the round table. And here we have the round table from Winchester. And this is a copy of the Arthurian original. The artwork is Tudor. And a couple of things that has to be pointed out with this round table is that, of course, you have the 12 knights sitting around this table. And we usually think of the Last Supper with Jesus sitting in front of a table who was squared, but it was probably round. And Jesus or Arthur have their 12 knights or disciples around them, and Arthur and Jesus was probably placed in the middle of this table, sitting in the middle as the sun, and you have the 12 zodiac signs around them. They didn't sit beside them, but in the middle of them, in the middle of the table. Now, the middle part of the table was an open space, so you could sit there. And then you have the disciples or the knights sitting around them. And you can see this table in other artwork as well. You can see this artwork, for example, where you have the Christ or the Arthur sitting, be portrayed as being in the middle of the table. And then you have the astrology signs around them. But what does that mean? Well, it means that Arthur is Ursa Major and that Christ also is attributed to Ursa Major, because the Ursa Major is traveling around the polar star, and depending on time and date, Ursa Major can be seen in different places in the above you among the stars. And we have a similar idea here in Scandinavia, of course, with Thor and Thor's chariot. And Thor has a hammer, and the chariot is drawn by Aries, or two Aries, goats, rams. And in Sweden, we call that chariot Karlavagnen. And if you translate it, it means like a man's wagon. So Thor is this Ursa Major traveling around the pole star in his chariot or wagon. And in the wheel, in Thor's chariot wheel of the wheel of the chariot, you see this swastika. And of course, when the wheel moves, also the swastika moves with it. Turn around. And when you trace the Ursa Major or the Big Dipper or Kalavainen or whatever you want to call it, it forms the swastika. And of course, Thor with his hammer, Thor is of course Jupiter, because you have the electricity from his hammer, and Jupiter is charged with electricity, thunder, right? So why does Thor have a hammer? When he bangs, he creates electricity and plasma. What I think this mythology is all about is that when Thor is traveling around in his chariot, banging his hammer, producing thunder and plasma, he tried to connect star gates or gateways between stars to open up plasma conduit between planets, stars, and beyond, to connect planets, stars to each other through this plasma conduit produced by his hammer, traveling around the pole star with his chariot, trying to find a way out of this matrix to create gateways. So we have the swastika, and of course this is a very important symbol. And of course the Nazis jumped on this bandwagon right away, right? Bandwagon, but they turned it around, of course. Not around, but they flipped it. The solar equatorial magnetic energy field reverse swastika of the Hallstatt Celts, depicting a solar radiation pattern as seen from Venus, before field sector neutralization caused by interaction with the polar fields. Solar radiation pattern from the solar wind, as seen from Venus after field neutralization caused by interaction with the polar fields, the Celtic symbol for man, from the Celtic Isle of Man, a dependency of the United Kingdom. Back to Kenneth Grant. According to Kenneth Grant, this apotheosis into 8th power zone is the gateway to that star of initiation, the metaphysic of the tarot key and the 93 current. It is the sunset residing in that star of initiation which lies beyond the mouse zone, Dath, the hidden Sephira, the hidden Cliffa, the 11th Cliffa. The mother of the sun is Typhoon, who was represented anciently by the 7 stars of Ursa Major, the Great Bear constellation in the north. Her son, Sirius or Sotis, was the manifestation of the mother in the south, where he represented the 8th and brightest luminary to her 7, the height or culmination of her light as the dog star, the sun set behind the sun horse. So here we find Sirius and the connection to Ursa Major to Sirius. But I want to point out that there is a connection between the Dragon constellation, the constellation that was before Ursa Major and circulated the pole star, to Sirius as well. So what it means is that this is a reconnection to Sirius through the Ursa Major instead of the constellation of the Dragon constellation. They had to trace or create the gateway anew when the constellation, the pole star constellation shifted to Ursa Major. "14 denotes the door or gateway. 14 equals 1 plus 4 equals 5. The number of the old ones and the basis for the Kabbalah is also the number of a woman, the cup. Kenneth Grant. So here you have connection between the pentagram, the old ones, and the Grail, and the woman. The feminine path, the left-hand path, the dark path. And as I pointed out in my presentation, left-hand path, it all leads to Sirius and the great old one, Dagon, the deep one, the ancient god, Dagon. And to point out, Dagon is a sea god like Poseidon or Enki. He resides in the ocean. And water in ocean can also mean cosmic water or astral water. Remember, it's not only attributed to matter. It's not only the water you can see, but also a metaphysical water. The Green Man, chapter 6. I talked about this before, but the Green Man is most likely Cernunnos. And Cernunnos is, of course, a Celtic god. And now we come to the Celtic beliefs and a plaque. Details showing Cernunnos, the Celtic god. The end of the torque, sun, terminates with spheres, representing the various manifestation of the twin star Venus as the morning star and the evening star. Cernunnos is hence associated with the sun. On his head he wears the horns of the stag that sheds its antlers annually, associating the stag with the sun, light, and God. The stag is the eponym of Jesus. The antler also resembles sprigs of thorns, and close examination shows Cernunnos wearing a twisted band around his forehead. Representing the crown of thorns worn by Jesus at the crucifixion, the cauldron, like the Old Testament of the Bible, tells of the coming of Christ for the Celts. But it is Cernunnos and not Jesus. And he wears the crown of thorns on his head. And of course, this is a connection between the presentation you had on, Miguel. It was a person talking about Belial as Jesus. And here you have the connection, some of the connection to this, because according to me, you have a connection between Cernunnos and Belial.
Right.
And Belial is, of course, very important in the left-hand path, because Belial is close to us. And that is one of the ancient ones you reach out to first, because he's closely associated with nature and matter. Therefore, he's more reachable than some of the other gods. But who is Belial? In the left-hand path, Belial is the breaker of chains, the remover of obstacles, the will to move forward, to overcome weakness, the warrior. So if you're stuck in patterns of behavior, if you do something that is harmful to yourself and you want to overcome it, you can reach out to Belial and ask for help to remove that from you. Of course, he doesn't remove it from you, but he shows you the way how to overcome it. You have to do the work. He will not do the work for you, but he will guide you. No one of these old gods will do the work for you. That's such a nonsense. Christianity has just flipped it around completely on its head. to tell you that you had to wait for something to save you.
Yeah.
That's the complete opposite of what you should do. Excalibur and Merlin, chapter 7. So you have the famous sword in the stone, and of course this is a very big thing into Arthur legend. So the stone is of course representing earth, and the sword representing air. So you have the symbol for earth and air. So you have this too. So what does it mean? Well, the Knights Templar, according to some, and I think there is some truth to this, but I'm not sure, of course. But in the Hanged Man card, number 12, you have a man hanged upside down from a tree. And of course, it goes back to Odin, for example, who hanged himself from the tree and tried to figure out how to proceed with his esoteric method. And to be able to hang there and to see things from a different point of view. But I also had to point out that the Hanged Man in Crowley's deck, he's hanging with his head over water. And the Hebrew letter attached to that card is Mem. And Mem is water, and the number is 40. And you have a serpent under his head as well. And I think that's the Kundalini serpent. So what they are talking about here is a method to take up the Kundalini serpent from earth, to draw it up, but from a position of upside down, or hang yourself upside down. Therefore, you take up the Kundalini force from Mother Earth, but you start with the Sahasrara chakra instead of the Muladhara. Therefore, you reverse the order, how to ignite or turn the chakras on, but you still take the force from Mother Earth, not from the air, not up down, but down up, but in a different order. You ignite the chakras in a different order. That's to say, to draw the sword from matter up or from Mother Earth up. In the Baphomet symbology, a couple of things to point out is that there is a bat component to Baphomet. He has wings, and the animal bat, the bat animal is prevalent here as well. And a bat hangs upside down in a tree when it rests, for example. And for a reminder, remember the symbols here. This is very important when we go to the next step. Remember the moon symbol, the fingers, three fingers pointing upwards, 2 pentagrams, and the fire above Baphomet's head. And Lilith is attributed to the moon, Lilith. There you have it in the movie The Shining, of course, where Danny and Jack goes into the moon room, of course, and meets Lilith there. In this image, you have the pentagram above Lilith's head, and there is a reason for it, of course. In the Decode of AI, Stanley Kubrick's movie, I talked about Samuel, the poison of God, and the Holy Grail. So you mirror 5-5, put them together, and you have the Grail. And that's the twin star Venus. Where does 5-5 come from? Well, Samuel is considered to be the poison of God. And Samuel is the third Caliph. the reason why he's called the poison of God is because when you drink from his chalice or his cup, you poison your senses and therefore you pierce the illusion. You can think of it as you take a drug and you distort reality, like LSD or DMT but of course this is a metaphysical method. This is a methodistic method. It is when you have turned on the Sunyata chakra and you pierce the veil, you take the poison of Sama, and that's part of that method. And you realize that, oh shit, this word is not that solid. And Greenfield created a cipher from the Book of the Law, and it is derived from the Book of the Law, and it's based on the number 11. And the number 11, as I said, is a very important number in the left-hand path because it points to the Daath, the hidden Cliffa, and the Sunyata chakra. And in his cipher, the name Samael is 55 or 55, the poison of God. The cipher is called the secret cipher of the Euphonauts. So back to Kenny Grant. 806, the number of Thoth or Tahuti, who as Set is the son of Typhon, the second bear. The emblem is the Calyx Horroris, the cup of horror. So you see there is a connection between the bear and the cup of horror. And this is not a path for the faint of heart. This is a path of the warrior. It is you have to confront your shadow, your darkness, transform it, everything that it is in your way. So we are talking about the astral plane here. You find Gamaliel, Lilith, the moon. You find Samael, number 8, and you find Venus, number 7, Arapsarak, all in the astral plane. And you have to go through all these cliffs on the astral plane to reach the mental plane. And in the mental plane, you have the Thagirion, the sun, the black sun in the left-hand path tradition on the cliphotic tree. You start your journey in Lilith. And depending on how you count the cliffs, if you count them from Thaumiel, that is Keter on the Tree of Life, as 1, you end up on 10, and Lilith becomes 10. Or if you count the opposite around, then Lilith is 1. And if you have done the work now, the method, you have taken the dark path, you have become a cosmic sailor, because now you have pierced the veil to the metaphysical. And of course, water is also about astral water. When you travel on water, like for example Noah in the Old Testament, doesn't always mean the water you can touch and see in matter, but it can also mean traveling in the metaphysical. And I call that traveler a boatman. A boatman for me is a person who appears the veil and starts to go further into the metaphysical to search for some profound truth. The aim is transformation. And I talked about it before, but Thor and his chariot is the Ursa Major. I want to point it out again because I want to deepen the understanding why this is so. So in the Sumerian mythology, you have the war between Tiamat and Marduk defeats Tiamat. Where is Tiamat? Well, in the Superman mythology, it's called Krypton. And Tiamat was probably a planet between Jupiter and Mars. And when it exploded during a war, meaning Marduk defeated Tiamat, it created the asteroid belt. The asteroid belt ends up between Jupiter and Mars. And in Sumerian mythology, Marduk used his wind or his satellite, and his satellite crashed into Tiamat. And Tiamat, Krypton, was a water planet. So it was life there. So you have Tiamat defeated Marduk, and you have the mythology of Superman, and you have this S on his chest. And some say it's symbol for serpent. Yes, I would point out also Sirius. Serpent Sirius is connected. And what I think it is that I think you have a natural connection between Tiamat and Sirius before. So you had a plasma sheet conduit between this planet, so you could easily move from Tiamat to Sirius. Sirius is attributed to water gods like Dagon, Enki, and so on. So you have a water element. And of course, you have the Superman mythology, the fallen angel. And you have Lucifer's crown of thorns. I consider the asteroid belt to be the crown of thorns. But Tiamat is defeated by Marduk, but also Orion is cut to pieces by Set, 14 pieces. And I think this goes together. I think this natural stargate between Tiamat, Krypton was lost, and therefore Orion was cut into 14 pieces. And Isis tried to put them together again, but she didn't find his penis. And the penis become the obelisks instead. So when Orion was cut into pieces, the natural gate or stargate between Tiamat and Sirius was destroyed. And they had to try to figure out how to connect it again. And I think we was shut out from our spiritual teachers, the oneness, and the ability to reach Sirius. In this Sote Sirius symbology, you see a star, a dome, and an obelisk. And the dome is a symbol for the moon, and the star is a symbol of Sirius. So Sirius, the obelisk, is connected to the moon and to the star Sirius. So let's go to USA for a moment and to Washington, and let's decode the Washington Monument. You see the monument standing in front of a water. The Washington Monument is 6666 in height and 666 times 666 at the base, according to some. But according to some, why is the Washington Monument 555 feet tall? Rather than ascend to 600 feet as Mills had intended in the original plan, Casey was persuaded to make the height of the structure 10 times the wide of the base, meaning the optimal height for the Washington Monument was 555 feet. No coincidence there, of course. Of course, everything is a coincidence according to these fucking people. Yeah, I'll show you what it means. The monument stands in the middle of the Visca Piscis, meaning two circles go around each other.
All right.
Rather than ascend to 600 feet as Mills had intended in plan. Now, what is this 555 feet all about? Why is the Washington Monument 555 feet tall? You have 5, another 5, you have the chalice, the Grail, and then you have the Venus star going up from the Grail, the morning star. 555. And 555 is also an interesting number in Lurianic Kabbalah, because 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 becomes 125. And according to Lurianic Kabbalah, you have 125 steps between you and the creator, meaning to go from matter to the light, you have 125 steps. And 5 plus 5 equals 10 and becomes 1. I am the one, the morning star, the Alpha and the Omega. I am the beginning and the end. Because if you follow me, it means the end of reincarnation. And it also means the beginning, because the beginning is 1 and 10. Meaning the first Cliffa and the last, or the first Sephiroth and the last. It remains a difficult name, the Visca Piscis. Not so strange because it is Latin. Literally translated, it says vessel of the fish. Because it looks a lot like a fish, the figure consists of 2 circles of equal size. The center of both circles are on each other edges. And remember, Jesus was called the Fisher King because he went from the Aries constellation to the Piscis constellation, and they became the Fisher Kings. And of course, in your flag from USA, you have the stars, and some would say it's Venus, and some would say it's Sirius, and I say it's both because I'm an esoteric person, so I see this is connected. There is a connection between Venus and Sirius. So when we add the masculine energy to the feminine energy, we can discover 3 numbers, which continue infinitely behind the decimal point without the repetitive pattern. And here you have the number 3 again. Remember Baphomet's 3 fingers. And remember that Baphomet is combined from the masculine and feminine elements in perfect harmony. So here you have it, the Visca Piscis. Maybe that's why the famous fish with Jesus written in it, this fish also comes from the Visca Piscis with a length of 153. And what they are talking about here is, of course, the famous Jesus fish. And of course, Christian doesn't understand at all what it means, but it's still a big symbol, still, I think, in Christianity. But of course, they don't have a clue what it's all about. And that's the point, because you have the esoteric tradition and then you have an exoteric tradition. The exoteric tradition is for the masses, and the esoteric tradition is for the elite, or the one who controls the masses through the exoteric version of the esoteric tradition. And of course, you have this bladder of the fish. If Sirius is our twin star, and if they dance around each other, forming the bladder of the fish, then it all makes sense. "14 denotes the door or gateway. 1 + 4 = 5, the number of the old ones, and the basis of their Kabbalah is also the number of a woman, the cup." I know I've said that before, but I want to hammer it home again. And of course, Dagon, the god Dagon is attributed to Sirius, and he is the old ones, the deep ones, our ancient gods, living in water. And it all leads to Sirius. Chapter 8, the apocalyptic animal. "Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. 666. Perhaps the number 666 and the extraordinary verse in Revelation concerned with the beast may have nothing to do with evil. In the Hebrew Gematria, the number 666 does not signify anything particular evil, but means a Messiah, an individual who has a particular divine message to relate. The word apocalypse actually means a prophetic disclosure, a revealing of the truth. We might therefore consider the possibility that the apocalyptic animal number 666 might actually be human, and one who brings a revelation, a Messiah, who could be an Antichrist insofar as he would not preach the old word of God, but a new word. Thus our new Messiah could be a good Messiah and still be an Antichrist. Of course, he will blaspheme because he will be against conventional Christianity, but still preach the word of God. Laurie comments further, this second Messiah, it seems, performed miracles in the name of the first and encouraged people to worship him as the only Messiah for mankind, and concludes, in summary, this verse can be interpreted as meaning that we will see a major change in Christianity and the beginning of a new powerful religion based on a Messiah who has already lived on earth. And in my presentation of left-hand path Jesus, I give you a presentation of that Jesus. Now, before you declare me to be the Antichrist and put me on a pedestal, I want you to know that yes, I'm evil, but there are even more evil people around than me. So maybe it's not me.
Maybe.
You can make up your own mind.
Yeah. We'll send you. We'll decide in the comment section where all reality is true, right?
Anyhow, according to one line in the book of Revelation, the earth-shattering words by a future messing are quoted as saying, "His word cut like a two-edged sword. I believe the harsh tone of the words is most likely aimed mainly at the word power that be. And of course, this the Black Sun, we have Tagir the Black Sun 666. So the number 666 is a reference to many things according to Left Hand Path, right? It's not only the number of a man, but it's also a reference to the Black Sun within you. What does it mean? It means that you can reach the Black Sun from within. You don't need any temple, you don't need any priest class, you don't need to join an organization. No, you have everything you need within yourself. Your body is your temple. And for me, that is important in the age we are in now, because there are so many lies, misunderstanding, agendas. I don't trust anyone except myself when I do the work. Of course, it's a little bit harder to do this on your own, but you don't have to go to the Jerusalem temple to do some serious work. I rather think you should avoid it. I am the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end, which is, which was, and which is to come. Chapter 9, the Grail of Knowledge. So let's walk on water for a while. The era of Arius had ended and that of Piscis had begun. Jesus, who had started his life under the constellation of Arius, was hailed initially as being a Lamb of God, the child of Arius. Now he had a double task. He not only had to regain the throne, but at the same time change the nature of the worship into a following of Piscis. The allied allegorical story of walking on water was presumably devised for similar reasons. For the next astrology constellation in turn is Aquarius, and Jesus as Piscis could be seen as standing on the foundation of Aquarius. And Aquarius is a very interesting sign because it's not the element water that is attributed to Aquarius. People may think it is water because Aquarius, of course, as a symbol is a water bearer. But the element is air and not water. The house ruled by Aquarius is 11th house. So here you have the number 11 again. And you have the four elements, and they are and the symbology for them is this triangles upright, upside down, and with a bar through them. And if you combine them, of course, you get the hexagram. The sword is a symbol for the element air. So in the tarot cards, if you draw a sword, it is about intellect, logic, thinking, but it is also about air. So when Lady of the Lake come up with the sword, you have two different elements going on here. You have water and you have air. And to walk on water is to walk on all elements at the same time. If you manage to walk on water, you manage to have balance between these four elements, because water rests on earth and you walk on the water, and you have the sun mirroring in the water, therefore you have fire. So you have all the elements here: water, fire, earth, and air. And of course, air is in the air. So you are walking with the four elements when you're walking on water. if you have the sun with you, if you have your heart with you. And in the card, the Hanged Man, tarot card number 12, because he's hanging upside down above the water. And it's to take back memory and meditate and contemplate and to integrate the new insights. The new insight that comes from remembering. Because what we are talking about is remembering. Remembering who we are. Remembering who we can become. What you cannot imagine, you cannot achieve. First you have to imagine something and then you have to act upon it. But if you cannot imagine that it can be different, then you are stuck. For example, if you're an atheist and materialist, you cannot imagine that you can be something else than an animal. And that is what you are. Now you're stuck. And of course, if you see yourself as a mirror in the water, you see yourself upside down. It's like a mirror. The water is a mirror. It mirrors you, and it looks back on you. The old you. You have gone through many reincarnations. Maybe the memory from earlier reincarnation can bring back some parts in you that you need to understand and integrate. And also the Freemason square and compass form this Visca Piscis. And also the square and compass alludes to the hexagram. And the hexagram is, of course, if you put the hexagram together, you have the planets around the sun. So you have 6 points, and in the middle you have the sun. So the planets is in the pentagram's edges, and then in the middle you have the sun symbol. You are walking on water, walking on the sun. If you have the heart chakra with you, if you have the sun, the spark, the soul with you, you are walking on fire. You are walking on fire, on water, on air, towards the sun, towards the black sun, towards Thagirion, towards Sirius, because the black sun is the number 666 is within you, but it is also without you, meaning that you can reach the black sun from within and from the black sun to Sirius. You don't need to use technology or an external temple from yourself. But of course, it's very good to put up your own temple in your own home. But your body is your most important temple. And your body temple will be transformed through the method, through the esoteric method, so that your body temple will vibrate in a different vibration. Therefore, you can start to pick up what's behind the curtain or what's behind matter and registrate what's behind it in the metaphysical. So we're walking on water with our grail of knowledge, insights, imagination, memory, what we can become. Because we are not becoming something new, but we take back what is ours. We become what we was. The bee, beetle, or crab is therefore the link between the earliest manifestation of the Typhonian current and its final phase. Note that all three are insectival, for the crab is a kind of water beetle, or considered as such in occult lore. This phase constitutes the link of a chain which precedes, includes, and then transcends the human component. Kenneth Grant. So the deep ones, Typhonian current, or the old one, the ancient ones. And you have the water beetle symbolizing Sirius. This chain precedes, includes, and then transcends the human component. And the water memory, language, and nation also attribute to your DNA. Because what we are talking about is to reawakening the 22 strands of dormant DNA within you. What science called the junk DNA, of course, is crap and it's nonsense. And if that's their belief, then they are stuck. For me, I know I can reawaken my DNA, take it back. The bringer of the Grail may therefore be envisaged as offering to this terrestrial and alien race of humans the chance of communion with the Typhonian bloodline, for the bearer descends from the bear Typhon, which embodies the type of the blood royal, the sangreal Canicron. So we have to be able to communicate with this God is part of this Grail. First, you have to transcend matter into the metaphysical and walk on astral water. And understand that you are soul, because that's not, today that is a controversial statement in and of itself. But if you don't believe you have soul, you're stuck. So to memory, to have take back memory, when humanity was more focused on spirit than matter, is important, because then you know what you come from and what is possible and what we human truly are, not what they have convinced us that we are. We are either sinners that should wait for a savior, a Jesus character. We cannot do anything on our own. The best hope we have is not to sin too much, because if we do, we go to hell, and then just hope Jesus will come and save you. Of course, this crap nonsense makes you passive and makes you stuck in matter. No, Jesus will come to save you, of course, and you will wait forever. And time is what you don't have. So if you wait for Jesus, you allow Satan, Father Time, to destroy your body. And when Father Time has destroyed your body and you haven't done any work, well, you will lose your memory and you will come back wiped clean and you will start all over again. But when you start to work on yourself with an esoteric method, you start to code your blood with that memory of the work you have done in previous life. Now you start to walk forward as long as you continue to work in next life. Therefore, you cannot have plans for one lifetime. You need to plan for many lifetimes and aim and walk the walk until it is until you are finished. And you will walk on water. That's your destiny. It's not a Jesus God thing. No, it is a human thing. To walk into the metaphysical is your right. It's your purpose. It's the reason why you are here. And to take back what's yours is your destiny and the reason why you are here. And to memorize and have memory of past is very important to understand who you are, what we have become, and why we have become what we have become. Because we cannot allow the human race to go down like this again. The Grail of memory. The Grail, a cup of water that holds memory, water, blood, mem. A process of magical remembering. The territory of the astral light is known in theosophical circles as the Akashic records. It is the auric field of the cosmic archetypal memory on a lower level plane of emanation. and contains the knowledge and wisdom of human, planetary, and stellar history. The Akashic records hold all the keys to the wisdom of occult knowledge, and it is the aim of the adept to develop the rhythm of the Hierophant so that they may make contact with the Akasha, called stone. According to Orphic cosmogony, the Muses were the daughters of Zeus, remembrance, memory. Rising from the celestial sphere, they represent the embodiment or vehicle by which gnosis is transmitted from the Akashic records. That is to say, that the Muses were the powers of remembrance and reminiscence of knowledge previously enjoyed by the soul in past births. The magical function of remembering enables the adept to witness the tidal magical radiation which lie behind the glamours, Leela, Maya, the shadow division or veiling of cosmic consciousness in nature. Carl Stone. And as Lucifer have stated, it is not power you seek, but to remember who you are and to take it all back from those who have taken it for you, because there is a deliberate plan to keep you in the dark. And you can see this in the movie Dark City, for example, a wonderful movie, highly recommended. Oath of the Witch God Eternal, Chapter 11. The demon princes, as the four horsemen of the apocalyptic winds of change, are riding the earth's stellar current across and beneath the plains of the world of man. The dragon lines flow with the fires of Belial. Each aeon brings such unrest with it, but it settles. This will not be the case with the age of reawakening. These are warnings given by the gods. Alan Smith. We can see this transformation in the card number 20, Judgment. And it is the end of an age and the beginning of a new. And it is about the underworld, abyss and death, vibration from the desert of set into the physical world, meaning the tunnels from the cliffotic tree. And you will feel those forces more closely to you, even when you are in matter. They will start to leak, and you will see many humans will go lost. And you will see people go nuts, and a lot of strange things will happen, because you're not supposed to be passive towards these forces, but you're supposed to be active and to transform them, work with them, use them. It means the skulled woman Babylon incarnating the cosmic serpent force, the Grail, the Grail. All this, what I've talked about here today, would come into play during the years ahead, where we either take back the memory of who we are, or we will allow a certain elite to dictate what we should become. The card number 20, Judgment, also means purging, renewal, and resurrection. And this is what we talked about. The meaning of judgment reminds us that everything comes to an end and a new beginning is ahead. The fire of Set, which is typified by the pyramid representing the ascent as well as the funeral pyre in which the body is burned so that the spirit can be released. And if that's if we work on it, we will achieve it. But if we are passive, the opposite will happen. This is a time of acting. This is a time of evolution, transformation, and to work on yourself this is not the time and date to be passive and wait for a savior. Some believe that some aliens will save them. Some believe that Jesus will save them. It will always be a savior. Some people just cannot understand that they had to do the work themselves. And therefore, the human race is in the dire situation we are in. And of course, a lot of propaganda, brainwashing have made us to the have taken humanity to this state. Sealed within the Atlantean inner planes after the fall in spiritual corruption of the first incarnate race, these gods grants greater power and knowledge than that which is held by modern man upon his current spiritual path. So for me, I aim at Atlantis and all gods, because I think we have to take back everything they have taken from us, not something, but everything. I aim for everything. Within the pathways of fire of the Atlantean star, Hecate bestows the glyph of the Atlantean gods. These are the true sigils of the primal gods, of the first race of man, marked beneath the golden flash of Belial that now covers your soul body. And make sure you have your soul, your heart with you on this journey, or you will fail. And that's the safe switch to keep certain mentality at bay, like the esoteric elite. They who bask in Lucifer's fire shall know the pathways of the future. Each shall be given the individual purpose by the Queen of Hell. And I know that this path is darkness, but according to me, we have to go into our unconscious, into our shadow, transform it. And I think it's more important than ever that the human race as a collective transform their shadow, the collective darkness, and work on it. I think that is very important. Chapter 12, the Grail of the Womb. The heart. The heart will guide you towards the truth, and the waking hours will serve as the expression of what has been prepared on the other side. Your mind and your heart must create the same melody, so that your passion will express who you are. You must release the self and become renewed in order to express something new, Lucifer. And that is very true. I will turn to Wayne Herschel in the end of this presentation. And Wayne Herschel, of course, a little bit out of place here, but Wayne Herschel thinks it's an alien race who will come back and save us. But I still consider him to have valid and good information. However, I will turn it around and flip it on its head. So I'm sorry, Wayne Herschel, but this is how I see it. The cosmic womb and Pleiades. Of course, we all have waited for Mithra, and Mithra is an important thing into the Grail mythology as well. And Mithra was a warrior esoteric method. They were warriors. And of course, this is a reflection of the metaphysical warrior. So it reflects out. But if you are a real metaphysical warrior, you will realize very soon that you don't have any enemies outside of yourself. But the only enemy you have is yourself. And the enemies are within you. And you have to slay them. Wayne Herschel has a theory about the Grail, and he put up the Grail in combination of Orion and the Orion constellation and with the 3 stars. the belt of Orion, and we have talked about it here. So the 3 stars of Orion, the belt of Orion, points towards Sirius, but it also points to Aldebaran. If you flip it like this, and you can see Wayne Herschel's Grail here. We can also talk about Gilgamesh. But before I do it, you have the Orion constellation, and if you follow Orion's belt, you will come to Aldebaran. If you follow it in the other direction, you will end up on Sirius. So you have a gate from the Pleiades or Aldebaran towards Orion's belt, and from Orion's belt to Sirius. It's a quite straightforward road from those stars. And what's interesting here is, of course, that Aldebaran is behind the bull. Aldebaran rests on the bull's back, between the bull's horn. And in the story of Gilgamesh, of course, they fight the bull and slay the bull. In the same way, Mithra slays the cosmic bull. And Enkidu is probably a symbol for Sirius. Therefore, you have 2 gods, or at least demigod Gilgamesh, try to find his way to Sirius. And of course, the scientists, they think this is a stupid story, blah, blah, blah. But it's, of course, a profound story if you start to understand what it means. Gilgamesh and Enkidu is stuck in matter, and they take to a metaphysical journey towards Sirius. They try to find their way to Sirius from matter. And of course, you have a reference here to bullfighting and to Spain, where they slay the bull. That's a Mithra tradition, or a Mithra custom. You shall be illuminated by the black light of knowledge of good and evil, gold and silver, or the X and Y chromosome, as more codes from the book of life are written upon your genes. You will gain sovereignty over the powers of heaven and hell. Now, what I think has happened here is that the bull is slayed. This bull slaying is a symbol that the gate to heaven is closed. And I think Pleiades via Aldebaran is the way to heaven. But I think the slaying of the bull says that the gate is closed, meaning that you can't go back to source or end reincarnation and go back to the creator. Some people talk about the soul trap here, and I think there is something to it, meaning that if you go that way, you will only reincarnate back with no memory, and you have to start all over again. And on it goes. So Aldebaran, or the gateway to heaven, is slain. The cosmic bull is slain, dead. And according to Wayne Herschel, there are 3 suns close to Pleiades constellation. And that's the reason why in Christianity you have this biscuit in the shape of a sun, and they eat it in communion, and they take it from a cup. Well, that gateway is closed. I rather say that you should be reborn. You have to go down through the chalice, through the Grail, down to the bottom of the cup, and below and go towards Sirius instead. Therefore, you enter the cosmic womb, the Grail, but you are not supposed to go up from the cup, but down into the cup and to be reborn from Hecate's womb. And the cup is full of water. Therefore, you have to go down in deep water, or go down in deep cosmic water and become a cosmic sailor and sail towards Sirius. Now, I don't want to end reincarnation. I want to come back with power and remembrance, with mem, so I can continue to transform, so I can continue to go forward. Doesn't mean that I will be reborn with all the memories intact right away, but it will mean that during the course of my life, I will pick up some esoteric methods, and I will have an esoteric interest that will draw me back towards the work, so I can continue to work without me knowing that I started my metaphysical journey in previous life. But it doesn't matter. You should push forward. You should keep on walking on water further into the metaphysical. You should go down into the Grail, not up. You should be reborn through the birth canal, through the womb. And the womb is water. And you go down towards Sirius. And one cauldron, or one Grail, is called the Cauldron of Dagda. And the Cauldron of Dagda is about rebirth. And what I think is symbolized is rebirth with memory. Water doesn't mean to remember everything you did in previous life, but it means that you will pick up on the work again. And you will find a way without you knowing. You will be drawn to this philosophy. You will be drawn to this theory and method, and you will continue your work. And you will rise like the phoenix bird from the ashes of hell again. And we will take back what's ours. And if you want to go back to source and end reincarnation, that's your right to do so. As Dio said, all the fools sail away, and that's perfectly fine. And I think that's exactly what they are saying with this method. That you had a choice, but I don't know if you have that choice anymore. I think if you go towards the light, I think others will spit you out again and take your memory from you and wipe you clean from past memories. And I think you have all of that in the movie Dark City. Therefore, if you don't have anything to do, as you do tonight, and if I haven't taken too much of your time, I highly recommend the movie Dark City, and that you have a good time, because life can be pretty good in matter as well. I can promise you, if you become a cosmic sailor and you can leave when you want, you will feel fine when you come back. As you travel to a new country and you spend time and you have a lovely time, but when you come back, you're like, nice to be home again, nice to be in matter again. But if you're trapped here, if you believe you're a prison here, then that's your view. That's the view you will have of matter. And I don't think it's a healthy view. I know that the human race have ended up in a very dark place for now, but we can take it back, and we will. And if you want me to do another 3-part series, I will just present the parts here. And of course, I will talk a little bit more about the Grail in this 3-part series as well, and expand a little bit upon it. But the part 1 is called Where Gods Are Born. Part 2, The Hang God Matrix. and part 3, the end of the world as we know it. And thank you a lot for staying with me. I know I take a lot of time, but I hope I've given you some different perspective on the Grail, Arthur.
Thank you very much, and glad you kept your voice. And ending it on Ronnie James Dio, I can't think of a more perfect way to do it. And yes, we should definitely check out this trilogy, especially if it's the end of the world. Can't say no to that. So yeah, it's been great. Again, so much going on. Myth, magic, and meaning. Nobody's coming to save you. Jesus, Trump, or Cthulhu are not coming to save us. That's a reality. So
Not even Trump.
Nobody, not even
not
Trump.
even Trump. I mean, it's game over here.
No. It is what it is. What do you think, Vance?
Very, very deep. I had all sorts of things coming to me throughout the presentation, and it just fascinates me, all the connections between the various mythologies throughout time. And it's just like a huge cosmic memory, you know, and the same themes come up, and it comes up from somewhere beyond us, you know, beyond the mere mundane. It's welled up, and that's water, like it comes up from the water, you know. And it's just amazing, the amount of imagery. It just blows me away.
Well, you know, Vance, there is water at the bottom of the ocean. That's a great secret. Only found in one song. So. But yeah. People keep saying I look like David Lee Roth. I don't know.
I saw that. Yeah.
They used to tell me it was Kelsey Grammer. Now it's David Lee Roth. I wish it was a young David Lee Roth, but I guess I'll take what I can get. So.
Yeah, my son told me one day, "Hey, Miguel looks like Frazier," you know.
Well, with David Lee Roth, I am running with the devil, so that's a good thing.
That's a good thing, man. Should be proud.
So awesome. Yeah, the chat I saw, again, great conversation. So much going on. I don't think we could. I don't have any questions because there's so much. Again, it's just the whole astrotheology, mythology, psychology, philosophy. David doesn't leave any stones unturned. So these are great.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you. I always try to put up new things on the table because, you know, it's important for me that people find something new in my presentation. And the most important part for me is to inspire others to do the work, because that's the most important part. And if I am special and you are not, then the human race is over. No, we are all special, and we have to do the work. And if I can inspire some to do the work, I'm very happy.
Beautifully said, and agreed 100%. Awesome. Well, then we better wrap it up before David finally loses his voice. We will come back for the next trilogy. Dog Days of Summer, around there, August. And that's it. And in a very nice sync, on Sunday, we will have a show that will focus entirely on the Knights Templar. We will be joined by European scholar Elena B. Scott, and she has all the archaeological and textual evidence that the Knights Templar were definitely extremely Gnostic. So get ready for that one, and it will tie in perfectly with David's work. So yes, you guys will be riding your coconuts to work and everybody else, and everywhere else after this. So it's been great. Well, Vance, thanks for keeping us company. I'll say that first.
Oh, it's great. It's a privilege to be able to dip my bucket down into the well of knowledge.
Thank you, Vance, and thank you, Miguel. Thank to your audience. It was a blast. Thank you.
It was. Thanks for everything, and for everybody else. Yeah, enjoy the rest of your weekend, your Freya day, and we will talk soon. Take care, everybody.